It's Marcy Albrecht. It's pie time. It's that time of year. We're going to get started today on pie crusts. And so we will get you the recipe on that. But I use my big KitchenAid for this, and we will show you step by step as things go along. So we'll take our Crisco, and it has to be Crisco. Don't use any generic shortening. It has to be Crisco. That's my thoughts. So I am putting in, I love these, already pre-measured. So I've got 3 cups. And I am going to put them in my mixer and beat these babies up for a little bit. While it's mixing, I'm going to put in 3 teaspoons of salt. I have a handy measure already in my hand. And the rest of that. Okay, we've got to mix this up pretty good. Now, obviously, the sides need to be scraped down. So they're already scraped down. And as I turn it on, I'm going to start to add 6 cups of flour. Make sure you count them as you go, because as it starts to mix, 3, you're going to think, oh, it looks done, and you've forgotten a cup of flour. Okay, as you look down at it, it looks pretty messy. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. This is going to take a little bit of time, not a ton. But you're going to keep mixing until this pie crust is going to look like it is done, but it is not. Okay, as you look at this and you touch it, and I'm still getting a little bit on, you want to make sure that when you mix it, there is not a glossy, wet look. You want it just to be kind of a dull color. And again, I need to scrape the sides down just a little bit. So I'm going to stop it and scrape it down. My mixer sometimes down at that very bottom does not get it, but okay, it's starting to come together. It's incorporating good. You want to make sure that everything's incorporated. Okay, I'm going to drop it down, kind of try and get it off the beaters a little bit. All right. I'm going to scrape it off the beater. This next step is one of the most, probably the important part of this pie crust. Now this pie crust is going to yield, for me and the size of my baking dishes, I'm going to be able to get 6 to 7 pie crusts out of it. If you use like a Marie Callender size dish, you're going to be able to get 9 or 10 out of it. And I'll kind of show you a little bit when we get to that step exactly what to do. So as I kind of scrape that side down, I've got ready for our next step. The next step is ice water. You can see I've already had it in there. It's been sitting, it's chilled. It is very, very cold. I'm gonna measure out 1.5 cups. So there's a cup. I'm trying not to get any ice cubes in it. And there we go. We've got 1/4 cup of ice water. You're gonna take a fork. Don't stir it in. The important part of this pie crust to make it nice and flaky is you're gonna take this fork and you're going to slice through the dough to mix in that water. This is what's gonna make your pie crust nice and flaky. But don't do your normal stir it in. You wanna slice through like a knife. It's gonna take some time. Use your muscles. I kind of just scrape right there. Okay, I'll show you what it's gonna look like when we've got it all sliced through. I've got it all mixed in. As you can see, it's not coming off. So I am going to dump it out onto a floured surface. No stirring, just kind of dig it out and drop it down. Every last bit that you can. Okay, as you look at this pie crust, you're gonna see some little white, cloudy looking parts. That is not mixed in. So you're just gonna take your fork and just poke at it, kind of dig it in. Don't stir it. You're just trying to work it in. Now I've left the pie crust in a mound. And there's a reason for that. You don't want to overwork your crust because then you've lost all of your fluffiness in it. So I've got this pie crust and I'm just gonna take it, kind of mold it into a loaf. I'm gonna kind of roll it a little bit in that flour. I'm not mixing that flour in. I'm just putting it into a loaf. And may I say, let me give credit to this pie crust recipe is Mary Ellen Heslop's recipe. I believe when she puts hers out onto a floured container, she uses cheesecloth. I don't use cheesecloth. I just roll it out onto this. Now, as you can see, I haven't kneaded it because I don't want to lose that fluffiness. Then I'm just gonna take a knife and I am going to eyeball how many I think I can get. My pie pans are pretty thick, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I'm gonna leave mine at 6 today. So I'm gonna go ahead and just cut them. There is no difference from making one pie crust mix or mess versus 6 to 10 pie crust messes. There's no difference. Why not make a bunch while you're doing it? You're gonna take a sandwich bag after you've got them sliced. Look how pretty, look, you can see those layers of fluffiness. Now the key to this, another key, is you're gonna put them in sandwich bags. Your pie crusts have to be frozen. Why, I don't know. Ask Mary Ellen. The benefit of making so many pie crusts, I'm gonna put them into a big Ziploc, is you're not scrambling that day before Thanksgiving or when you need them. They're in your freezer. And voila, you take them out, let them thaw for 30 minutes, sometimes 40 minutes, depending on the size of them. These are all done. Now, if you scramble and you need to build a pie and you've just made them, these still have to go in for at least 30 minutes inside your freezer. Okay, these have been sitting out, they're thawed. If you're gonna see a little bit of white dots it's okay. That's just where it's been in the freezer. It's coming back out. You've got, it's just where things have been incorporated. Here's this one. It is totally ready. It's mushy. We're ready to roll it out. When I roll out the pie crust, questions may pop up. Why don't I use parchment paper versus wax paper? Your wax paper has wax on it. So that with your Crisco, as you roll it out and you're able to peel that back, wax paper is the key. Parchment paper, it's gonna stick a little bit. Will it work? Yeah. Get your cheap wax paper. I've got 3 different size pans here that I use. I usually use this deeper one where the side is more up and down, if that makes sense, for like my pumpkin pies. That's going to have a filling inside. We've got it right here. This is a Marie Callender's, or if you're going to use a disposable tinfoil one, this is the one that you can get 9 to 10 pie crusts out of that recipe. And this is just my normal pan that I use for my cream pies, which is what we're going to demonstrate today on those. So I've got my board, I've got my wax paper that I'm going to be rolling my dough out in between 2 sheets of wax paper. So I'm going to take my wax paper, I'm just going to sprinkle just a little bit of flour on it. I'm going to dump out my little critter and put him in. And I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit on top. Put my other layer of wax paper on. I'm going to take my rolling pin and I'm going to start to roll it out in sort of a circular pattern. I know that there are like silicone mats that will have a design telling you how to, the size to do it. I don't have one of those. I just kind of eyeball it. I want to try to make sure that I don't have that very center super duper thick. So this looks like what I would think might work. I take my pie pan, I'm gonna lay it right over the top of it. Now I can see that as this pie crust goes down inside, when I go to flip it, it's not gonna be big enough. So I know that center probably is still too thick, which it is. So I am going to roll out a little bit more. Okay, I am going to look at it one more time. Looks good. So, tricky part about this wax paper is I'm going to take that first layer off, and I'm going to lay it right back down. It's already been taken off. I'm going to flip my pie crust around. Peel that underside off. Not much waste left on the wax paper. I can reuse the wax paper for 2 pie crusts. Then after that, I get more. So I'm gonna lay my pie pan down. I'm gonna reach my hand up underneath, and it's gonna bring that pie crust down to the bottom of the pan. I'm gonna flip it over, and I'm going to pull that down into that deep crevice at the side. And I'm going to slowly start to peel it off. Make sure that you are not pulling your pie crust. Now, I intentionally made sure that, as you can see, that I don't have enough pie crust that goes clear up to the top. I did that on purpose to show you that you can take some of this that's a little over here, and I'm just gonna press it. Press it in place. Okay, now I'm gonna take my pie crust and roll that excess around. As you can see, some of it's going to be just a titch thin. It's okay. This pie crust is going to be one that is going to be pre-baked. All my cream pie ones, obviously, are pre-baked. Pumpkin pie, you do not have to pre-bake. On a pumpkin pie, you follow the directions on the can, or if you have a favorite recipe that you use for pumpkin pie, you will just pour it into the pie shell and bake as directed on your recipe. Okay, as I finished off the sides here, I can see there's a little bubble. You are going to take a fork. This allows any extra air inside your pie crust to escape while cooking. Okay, now I'm going to take a little bit of butter. This is just for your pre-cooked shells. I take a little bit of butter and I kind of rub it on my hands. I know it's gross. And I just pat it in. This prevents sogginess when you go to add your cream. That one little side is being difficult. That. Okay, we have got a pie shell ready to bake. 400 degrees. You're just going to set it for 5 minutes. You're going to check it at 5 minutes to make sure that there's no bubbles up inside. When there are, you poke them down with it in the oven. 400 degrees. You can do multiple pie crusts all at the same time. I'm just going to set this for 5 minutes. Because after 5 minutes, we'll kind of turn the light on so you can see it. If I can see bubbles, I'm going to grab my trusty fork and I'm going to just poke them to drain that out, get that steam out so that they will continue. 10 minutes is about what we want. We want it to be a golden brown. And we'll just see what happens in 5 minutes. This is after 5 minutes. I've got a little raising right there. I'm just going to poke it down. As it continues to cook, the air will escape through those new holes. When it's cooking, you want to make sure that deep crevice down at the bottom where it flattens out, that's where you want to put your focus at watching your pie crust. Because if it's starting to look translucent, it still needs to continue. Corner up in here, no translucent looks, so we're going to say it's done. So we'll take it out and let it cool. Okay, we pulled it out of the oven. It's sizzling a little bit. It's just going to cool. While it's cooling, go right on to the next step. You've got custard to make for your filling, which is not my recipe. It is another famous cook in our ward, Diane Orton. It's her family custard recipe. It's fabulous. In that recipe, it calls for 2 cups of milk with the 1 cup of sugar and to let that scald. Put it in a double boiler. I do not have a double boiler, but I watch it in the pan to get those little bubbles around the side. My family uses skim milk or fat-free milk. I use a cup of that and a cup of whipping cream or cream that goes with it instead of just 2 cups of milk. Okay, today we are going to be making a chocolate cream filling, but I'd like to show you some other fillings. As you can see, I use a Jell-O instant pudding mix. I do add sometimes extra flavor. For a coconut cream, they don't make an instant pudding. I use the regular pudding, the cooked kind, or I will do a vanilla and I will use a coconut emulsion. Not a coconut flavoring, I use the emulsions. They seem to be a little bit not as artificial. Also, when you're doing a banana one, like for your banana cream, I do put a couple drops of the banana emulsion flavor in. Not necessary, but it just kind of adds that little intensity to it. I do slice bananas that I have soaked in orange juice. I put that in the bottom of the crust first, then the cream, a layer of banana, just to give a little bit of texture to it. If you choose to make a double crusted baked fruit pie or any kind, you can just buy your filling already done. You'll roll your crust out just like we did for a pre-baked one. You put your filling inside of it and then roll out another crust just like you did the first one, and you'll just lay it on top of your pre-mixed or apples and just cinch around the sides. Done deal. Rub it with a little bit of egg whites, sprinkle with sugar. Done deal. Make sure you leave a vent for excess steam to come out. Okay, so I am going to open up my Jell-O instant pudding. Now, if you prefer not to have quite so creamy, if you like your fillings to be a little more custardy, you can take the custard recipe, which is right here, all done and chilled. You can add some chocolate to it if you prefer to have more of a custard, more of like maybe a lemon meringue, the lemon filling. You can do that also, but this is the way I do it. So I've dumped that in, and I'm gonna get 1 cup of milk that I am going to put in. And here is the Costco heavy cream. I love it. So I'm putting in the liquid. So I am going to mix this up. I will slowly pour that in. The key right here is to make sure that you have incorporated that powdered Jell-O in till it is not gritty anymore, that it is totally mixed in. Because if you start mixing all the other stuff in and this is not mixed up, you're gonna get little sugar dots and the cocoa from the pudding mixture into your creamy filling. Okay, as you can see that it is starting to set up. That's a good thing. I'm gonna take our custard. This is a 1/2 cup. I'm gonna put a full cup in. I don't really measure totally, but you want a good heaping cup of that. Mix it up. Oh yeah. You can get creative with some of these fillings. I did an orange cream that I used the emulsion and the vanilla pudding. You can do chocolate with peanut butter. Made like a little peanut butter ganache, or add just a little peanut butter to the custard and make its own little layer. Okay, this is setting up wonderfully. Okay, now I am going to take my whipped cream, which I use powdered sugar to sweeten when I'm doing whipped cream. I know some people use fine granulated white sugar. I prefer powdered sugar. So I am going to dump that in. Now when I mix this up, I don't want it to, I want it just kind of to fold in, so I don't put it on high speed because I want that to stay nice and fluffy. I don't want to totally beat it up. So this is good. One year, I took some melted chocolates, the melt-aways. I melted it and had a layer on top of my pie crusts, and then put the melted chocolate, let that set up for about 5 minutes in the refrigerator after it was melted, and then I put the cream on top. You just have to remember when you go to slice it that it's going to be just a little bit harder to slice through the set up chocolate and then the pie crust. Okay, this is looking absolutely fabulous. So while your pie crust is still cooling, you've got your filling, it's all ready. We're gonna prepare the very top finishing touches on your pie. So I've got a potato pillar, carrot pillar, whatever, and I just grabbed a Hershey's bar. And I will just peel it, try to get some curls. Sometimes they get some really pretty curls, sometimes not. Doesn't matter, as long as you've got something that kind of identifies your pie, because if you've made multiple pies, such as coconut inside your filling, you'll put a little bit of raw coconut inside your filling, stir it up. So on your coconut, you're gonna take some of your coconut flakes and just toast them. Sprinkle them in a pan and put them in your oven. Watch it though, because they will toast quite fast. You can see I'm just getting some swirls, some bits. It's all gonna be perfect. This is just gonna identify that pie when you're done, and it's just sitting in the fridge. A banana cream, you're gonna top it with one slice of banana on the very top, so it just tells you what pie is what. Obviously your pumpkin, you'll know what that is, because you don't put cream on it until you serve. This pie filling that we have made, just waiting the cream filled, doesn't always have to be put into a regular pie crust that we have made. You can make a graham cracker crust. You can make an Oreo crust exactly the same way. Just substitute the outsides of your Oreo for graham cracker. Easy recipe, will include that in. Also, be creative. Sky's the limit with these pies. Okay, your pie crust is cooled. We are going to put our filling in. Just push it down. Sometimes I like to have a little bit of a poof, if you will, on the top. Okay, now we have got our cream. Cream is the next step. I'm just taking a pastry bag. I put a tip in the bottom, a little star tip, bottom of my bag. I'm gonna set it inside a cup. This is just to help fill that baby up. I just slide it inside there. Here is our sweetened whipped cream. Oh yeah. Now if you don't have a pastry bag, you can just put some cream on the top of that and just smooth it over like the pudding filling. But just make sure that you get oh, a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch deep of cream in it, so that you've got some cream on the top. All right, we're just gonna do, oh, let's say our swirls. We're gonna do some swirls up and over. You can star it. You can use a round tip. And then I go back and I fill in our spots. Okay, our very last dollop. I'm going to put a hefty dollop of cream on, and then I'm just going to sprinkle, oh, that was a heavy sprinkle there. Pick up some of the swirls and just toss them on. This is just to let everyone know we've got a chocolate one. And then I like to take my favorite, a Dove chocolate, and just garnish the very top with that. You can take these and shred them also, but a Hershey's bar is longer and nice. Obviously, refrigerate your cream pie. Okay, we have got a chocolate cream pie done, and as you notice, once we have it all complete, you can't see any imperfections that are on the crust at all. So, can't wait to cut it.